Future Shock, good afternoon. Happy Sunday. How are you doing? Okay, so you just muted yourself. All right, that's okay. Hi, are you doing all right, bro?
What happened there?
I don't
Hello,
know.
can you hear?
You're muted for a second.
I didn't hear.
How's things?
I was expecting to hear the music, and then
Can you hear it? Oh,
it
that's
kind of
weird.
is coming in and out.
Oh,
Oh, now
I'm
it's
playing on
gone.
the screen. Anyway,
Oh yeah, you didn't play for me. Anyway, no worries. We are live.
we are
Truthfully,
indeed live. Yeah.
you were just sort of
Hey,
telling me
what a
about your
day.
your virtual reality experiences recently. I mean, it sounds crazy when you come out of it.
Oh,
That you
mate.
have like, what is it, like a few seconds, or does it take a bit longer to sort of like calibrate?
Well, I feel like, oh gosh, it's so intense, man. Because I'm playing the Half-Life Alex on half. You're familiar with like Half-Life, the game series, Half-Life, and Gordon Freeman and all that.
Not massively. I know of it, obviously, but not
It's
massively.
like totally awesome series. I don't really play a lot of video games, but if the video game's got a really cool story, like for instance, have you heard of Terry Pratchett?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was one of the first books I ever read was Mort. Proper books was
Yeah, I
Mort.
used to love that as a kid. More. We were all we were all reading that as kids, like what teenagers or whatever. It was like more and all that. More was the first one I read, I think.
Yeah,
But
it's
his
the
daughter,
first one
Rihanna
you read
Pratchett,
as well. Yeah,
huh?
okay. Yeah, it's the first one that you read as well. So it's both. It's our
Yeah, yeah,
first, both our first ones. I mean,
yeah.
that's probably
My
just to do
friend
with the fact it
introduced
was
it
one
to
of the
me.
few
We
ones
used
out.
to do Dungeons and Dragons and all that kind of stuff, and it's all part and parcel of that kind of like post Lord of the Rings experience. Really, you know, what do I after Lord of the Rings? You need another fix. What do I need more fantasy. I need dragons. I need and then you sort of get into sort of the slightly ironic, like Terry Pratchett version of that world, don't you? You know.
Yeah, it's kind of like the next level you go to after that, isn't it? Because it's kind of a bit more. It's got that sort of twist to it, hasn't it? It's got that edge to it. It's a little bit more irreverent and all that. What was that one? I don't think it's in more, but there was like, isn't there just there's a character that sort of repeats throughout the series. He's kind of a very bit part character, just a really bad designer. I'm sure this is something that's referenced throughout a lot of the books. Whereas this guy who just does these really crazy designs, like he designed like a goldfish tank, but it was something like a mile long and like half an inch wide or something. Some bizarre, just weird shit like that. You know, it's the book does it better than me, but yeah, it's a great fucking series, man.
So his daughter, I think he's passed now, but his daughter Rihanna Pratchett, she actually wrote the reboots of the Tomb Raider series. You know, you're familiar with Tomb Raider? Well, they remade it like a few years ago, and I love the narrative is amazing. The world building and the story is so cool. And if there's a good story, I'm like in, and I'll like play the game. I'm all about story, you know. So I don't play a lot of games, but if there's a good story, and then Half-Life, of course, has got a fantastic story. But recently, the Half-Life Alex came out on VR, and I sort of I got a sort of VR ready computer and all that, you know, with a nice graphics card. And geez, I tell you what, man, I bought the game like 3 years ago, and I couldn't go back to it because it was so traumatic. Like, there's this thing called Jeff. There's this creature called Jeff, right? And he's kind of like mutated in the in the sort of in the Half-Life future universe, right? And he's kind of like invaded by like a mushroom spore thing that just sort of turns him into a sort of half man, half mushroom. And he's got like he can't see, and his face has turned into a sort of gnashing pair of jaws, and he's just puffing out these spores. It's like so fucking horrific. But when he catches you, he can't see you, but he can hear you. So you're trying to evade him, and you're in this sort of you've got your headset on and you've got your gloves, you got your hands, and so you have to distract him by throwing vodka bottles around this old distillery. And if he catches you, if you drop a bottle or something, he vomits acid into your face and you die. And it's the most fucking traumatic thing I've ever. It's like dying in real life. So you play VR and you always feel like you're really. It's like dying in a dream. You know that experience when you're dreaming and something like terrible happens in the dream and you wake up like sweating and shocked. That's what VR is like. It's so intense, you know.
So the actual, because I'm looking at a video of it, because I'm not seeing what the actual graphics look like. And yeah, okay, it's amazing to me how like graphics haven't really advanced that much really over the years. But I mean, I know they've advanced a bit, but not that significantly, you know, for 20 odd years, but or 15 odd years. But anyway, yeah. What so like when you are killed in the game, what happens? Like, what actually happens?
Well, you die and you go back to you go back to a load state. You restart, but like
How
I
does it
mean,
sort of do it like when you
I'll
actually
get a picture of death vomiting into your face just to give you an example of that. But imagine it in VR, how traumatic it is. I'll just give me a second to try and dig that out. But
yeah, man, it's a surprise. Yeah, whilst you dig that out, I was going to say it was a bit of a surprise that I've never really got into it that much. I think what I've thought about VR is that okay, this is where we are at now. I'll try it further down the line when it's more advanced. But from maybe that's me being naive because, like, from what you're saying, it's already pretty realistic and convincing and stuff. So that's kind of what I was hesitant about. Like, I wanted it to be a bit more hyper realistic kind of thing. But yeah, certainly we're on our way to that. I mean, it's not going to be long until we'll be able to just like prompt code our own or get an AI to code our own sort of simulated world, which you then put on a headset and roam around. So that's going to happen at some point soon in the next maybe 2-3 years or so. Everything's moving so fast with this stuff that it's kind of hard to make predictions anymore. You know.
so yeah, the thing is with VR, like about what was it? Maybe 2020 was a big year for VR because that's when Half-Life Alyx came out, and it's regarded generally as the best sort of VR game ever made. But around the same time, this sort of thing called Windows mixed reality came out, and that was kind of Microsoft's attempt to get in on the VR. Well, it wasn't a bandwagon, but they tried to get in quite early with it. And so what happened is you had like loads of different software, like you had Samsung, Sony, I think HP, Lenovo, all these computer manufacturers started releasing VR headsets, and it was all like based with Windows mixed reality, and it was like an attempt to do a sort of mass market, make VR mainstream. But it just didn't quite work because I think there was a few issues. There were so many different headsets, and no one quite knew which was the best one. Well, it turns out Samsung made the best one, and that's the one I got.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they were 299 quid, and to use them, you needed quite a good computer. And I think a lot of people, probably felt that the investment of like maybe 500 or 600 quid wasn't quite, worth it. But also VR, there's a lot of issues with it. Like you need to get something called VR legs. If to use it properly, you can move in a variety of ways. You can either like hop around the game, right?
Yeah.
Or you can actually just you can move. You can use the joystick to move like literally as you would move normally, as you like sequentially in a straight line, rather than sort of skipping. But that that can give you travel sickness, and it took me about 3 weeks to get over that travel sickness feeling. But once you do, it's fantastic. So you have to work at it. VR is like something you have to like acclimatize to and get used to. So
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense as well because it is something very, to some degree, unusual, and perhaps in another way very usual. But that specific context, that's people. It's one thing sort of sitting down with a joystick and looking at a computer screen, but to be kind of like immersed in it, it's going to take a bit of getting used to, I'm sure.
Well, like I was saying, it's quite intense and a little bit like kind of frightening. I mean, I ended up smashing a 30-40 inch plasma TV in my where I lived in my house in the UAE because I had my VR headset on, and I was playing what's that? Super Hot. Have you heard of Super Hot? That video game where you're kind of like you've got these red assassins around you, and every time you move, then time continues. But if you freeze, time stops, and they're all trying to shoot you. So if you stop moving and they shoot you, the bullet sort of stops in the air. So you have to like plan your movements and you have to shoot the guys, so you don't get hit by the bullets or them trying to get you. But it's like like I was shooting this like red assassin kind of guy, and then I'd run out of bullets, and I was like so freaked out that I ended up sort of reduced to punching him. And instead of literally, obviously, I got so carried away. I punched the TV and cracked it and wrecked my fucking plasma TV. So it's like it's not without some costs, you know, with some drawbacks, the VR sort of thing, you know.
So the advice is to do it in a room where, like, you know, do it in a spare room or something like that, where there's nothing to kind of like destroy.
Do it in a padded cell, man. That's the just because you can knock over everything, knock over whatever you've got. If you've got a cup of tea or something, it'll go flying. I mean,
that's the one thing about VR. I haven't quite understood that yet in terms of how if they're gonna make a super hyper realistic one, then what are we gonna do in terms of how we're gonna walk around and stuff like that? Like, how is that going to be simulated? Is it going to be having to like wear a suit? Is it going to be, I don't know I don't know how they're going to do that and make it 100% accurate. I mean, when you're playing that game now, does that feel like, quote unquote, feel like you're walking around? Is it convincing enough?
Well, obviously, you know, you're playing a game, but spatially looking around you, I mean, I was just playing an hour ago, and you're in a state of high anxiety, tension, and terror. Because it's amazing, but it's really intense. It's like you're in that world. You're in that 3-dimensional world, you know. So you look up and you look around.
You've got me interested. I must say, I'm kind of curious now. You're talking about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah. If I didn't have bloody so much other stuff to sort out, I could see myself maybe trying it out.
Oh, well, just come around sometime, man. I've got it all set up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you never see reality the same way again. Because once you take when you take the headset off, you know, you're like, remember, it's like that Red Dwarf episode. Is it like, how do I take back to reality when they're actually they're in a virtual reality, aren't they?
It's an amazing episode, yeah.
I know, it's one of the best ones ever. The despair squid and all that, right? That's so funny. But you're when you take the headset off, you're like, you know, it's like that whole thing of the holographic universe and the illusion of reality. You know, where's the switch for this headset? You know, the ultimate headset. You know, this 3-dimensional physical reality we live in. You know, the holographic computer. You know, the computer simulation, like the Matrix and all that. You know.
And then what happens when you turn that switch? And then what are you confronted with?
Well, that's it. That's just what I mean, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. I think it can be quite. That's it. You either become Jesus or you become insane. It's one or the other, isn't it? That's it. I think Jesus is the kind of character. I mean, personally, you know me, a Christian, right? But I think Jesus was the kind of guy who figured out that it was a virtual reality game. You know.
Yeah, so we said before, he was like an early days. It just, in some senses, anyway. Some of the things he said, he was like an early days physicist, quantum physicist. Some of the things coming out, especially in Thomas.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just going to see if I can play this thing here. I don't know how it'll turn out. Can you see that on the screen, Jeff?
Yeah.
Half-Life Scariest Chapter. That's Jeff. That's what he looks like. But don't be deceived by the unassuming title, as this is actually the scariest part of the game, requiring you to make as little noise as possible to avoid a blind creature named, you guessed it, Jeff. All of this is explained to you by a friendly character called Larry, who actually has unique dialogue depending on what you're wearing.
Hey, there's no sound. Larry, can you hear anything?
Nice to meet you. Try not to get killed.
Nice helmet, by the way. Oh, and a nice mask. That'll come in handy.
Okay, well, that's not terribly successful. I'll have to just try and find something else. But yeah, let's get rid of that. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing most of the week, mostly playing Half-Life Alyx and scaring myself to death.
I can see how that would become addictive for sure.
Yeah, how about you? What have you been up to?
This week, I've just been mainly doing. I mean, my reply is honestly that, like, it's going to be this. It's just the same thing I'm doing every week at the moment. It's just like working on the AI project stuff and music project stuff, working in gym, and that's it. It's just that on repeat at the moment, which is not a bad group of things to be doing, but like, I don't know, and just keeping tabs on all the craziness that's going on across the world, obviously. Did you see, there was a funny story, I think a few days ago, and I'm not sure if you saw it, how this, I think they were in either Northern England or Scotland. I could look it up. I'd share the screen, but this MacBook is kind of crawling, so it would struggle with it. But basically, some parents had gone on a WhatsApp group for their school and complained about the school. I'm not sure exactly what they said. I'll look at the article in a sec. But basically, because of this complaint, the school called the police, and six police officers arrived at their house for this WhatsApp message that they'd sent. Now, even if they'd said something like, "Oh, we're going to go and firebomb the school," you still don't send 6 fucking officers, surely. It's like, what are the situation? Like, when do you ever get 6 police officers turn up for a situation? You're looking to get any. And then when they do, it's for like a fucking WhatsApp group. So, man, reality, things like this are just sort of like big red flags to me. They're indicators to me that we are actually in the simulation. Honestly, it is crazy.
I think they were charged with so-called under the Malicious Communications Act.
So what did they say exactly? Because I never saw the quote, but I just thought they can't have said anything that warrants 6 police officers coming around, surely.
I actually don't know. I just saw that, and I just saw the word on the newspaper, malicious communications. But more than that, I've no idea. How many people were... Whose house was it? How many people were interpolated?
So it was... Hang on a sec. I mean, yeah, it was just a couple, I think. It was a couple and their kids. Just trying to fucking... all right, yeah, I found the story. Is it Hertfordshire? So not in the north. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, those 6 police officers, obviously there are 6 police officers who are not investigating child grooming crimes and such, because, of course, they don't do that kind of thing. They'd rather just... They seem to come on hard on innocent people who are actually law-abiding mostly and just want to express their freedom or something. And if you do that, if you try and express, your freedom of speech, that seems to be SWAT team sort of offence. That's you can sort of get the equivalent of the great British swatting, really. So I'd say 6 police officers is basically psychological intimidation, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
No?
I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, look, what they're saying, the couple, they're basically saying that they were regularly emailing the school about the needs of their disabled daughter, basically, and they said they were never like abusive. They said they were never told that their like messages were bad or criminal or whatever, and yet they suddenly find 6 police officers at their front door about it, which is just mad, really mad.
Well, we know that police don't investigate serious crimes anymore, so they've got to do something, haven't they? So that seems to be what they do these days, right? Either that or twerking and dancing at Notting Hill Carnival seems to be all they do, isn't it, right?
Yeah, stuff like that is kind of weird. But yeah, it's so that was one thing. Like,
gay pride will always be there as well, won't they? With the rainbow fucking police cars.
Have you ever been to Notting Hill Carnival?
I actually fucking have, and I had a good back in the 90s. I had a really good time. It was awesome.
I've never actually been. It just seemed like it's just the
really
packness of it puts me off. Like, I don't know, people probably laugh at me or whatever, but I don't know. I see the picture, I see how packed it is. I'm just like, I don't know about that.
Well, no, I mean, someone gets killed every week, the long weekend, every year. There are sort of arrests and multiple deaths.
It just seems a bit long, the whole thing. Like, just for what? Like, for a music
different days. I think there's like a raving, because in the 90s it was like the raving scene, and I was into that. So me and my mates, like, we were kind of hippies and that, and so we'd have a bit of, we'd get our raving heads on, shall we say, right? And we'd go to the sound systems, and we'd just be like dancing and raving behind the sound systems, the trucks and stuff. And it was ace, and they would just give you like free rum and free drinks the whole time. It was like we had it was like friendly. But then London in the 90s was friendly. You know what I mean?
Well, this is the thing. I always think that especially being into drum and bass, it's just a sort of London-based. Well, it was like genocided in London. It was created in London in a club called Speed by... Was it a night called Speed or a club called Speed? I need to figure that out. Anyway, yeah, by Fabio and Groove Rider, who created drum and bass, jungle drum and bass back in 92-ish, 91, 92. And so I always kind of thought, like, being into that and kind of being kind of, I don't know, sort of attracted to sort of London lifestyle, 90s-wise. I thought I was always born maybe 10 years too late. I kind of missed out on that. Like, I kind of missed out on being sort of 2021 in like early to mid 90s. So I was only like 8 then. So I feel like, yeah, maybe I was like 10 years a bit too late on it. Because that 90s period looks like, for so many different reasons in London, would have been a really great time and place to be living in.
It was like the 60s, you know?
Yeah.
It felt like, I'm not that I know what the 60s are like, but it kind of felt like another go at like freedom and like clubs and music. Music was awesome. You know, the indie Britpop thing music was so cool. In fact, at one point, music was our second international export after British Petroleum. It's like our biggest, one of our top exports was culture and music, which is kind of amazing, really.
I remember reading that somewhere. I mean, yeah, you're right as well. Like, it's not like all kinds of music were peak at that time, whether it's electronic.
Yeah, it was all kinds of music, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's electronic or band type stuff, it's all good.
And I remember the government at the time, I think it was like was it a conservative government? They were actually considering allowing musicians to be long-term unemployed and not force them to go and get jobs when at the job centre, so that they could, for the sake of the economy. It was like you were an artist then, and you were like a credit to the country. The nation like thanked its artists and musicians. Can you imagine like living in a culture like that, where you were appreciated for being a musician or an artist and stuff? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess an argument could be that you have that, but then when you look at things like Spotify, I was going to say that you have that now to a degree, but when you look at things like Spotify and how they take the piss out of artists, seriously, I hate Spotify. I hate the fact that I had to go on it, basically forced to go on it. I mean, you get...
I don't get it. What do you mean you were forced to go on it?
Well, labels want to... So when I release with the labels, sometimes they will just... They'll do it for me. I don't have to do anything, basically, but they'll release it on Spotify. And that's just sort of part of the contract that they release on Spotify and Apple, blah, 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 which I agree to. And it's kind of like, okay, it's, you know, it's not a massive deal or anything, but I would prefer, I suppose, not to be, just because of the way they take the piss out of artists. Like, nobody makes money off Spotify unless you're already making a shitload of money. So it doesn't really make much sense. Like, if you're
Who takes the piss out of artists, though? What do you mean?
So, okay, let me just find the actual thing. So I'll find it for you. So I've got the correct factual information, because it's basically what I'm referring to is the way how they pay you, basically, for your streams. Yeah. So, spare me one sec.
Yeah, you can I'll whistle a happy tune while whistle a happy tune.
So yeah, so I'm there. So between 0.003, that's in dollars as well. So it's even less than that. So
$0.003
per stream.
Per stream.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean per listen?
Every time. So if you've got a song on there, it's every time that song is played, it gets $0.003.
That is a piss take. Yeah, your words were apt. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's unfathomably bad, isn't it? It's not even 0.3. It's 0.003. Like, come on, man. I mean, I know I think there's server costs. They will argue kind of like server costs involved, but I mean, I don't know. It seems a bit on
That's
the
like
low
a molecule of copper's worth of. It's like a hand. You can probably not even see a coin that small, right? 0.003. That's like a nano penny or something. Nano pennies. Yeah. So they're giving you nano pennies, man.
So that's like what, 300? I don't know if my maths is right, but that's something like what, 300 streams before you make
a penny. Oh, $1. Oh, it's $1 before you make $1. Actually, so it's 3 pence. So I'm being a bit, No, so is it 0.003?
If it's 0.003%.
No, it's a third of a penny, isn't it? No, it's 3 pence. I think it's 3p. I think it's 3p.
Regardless, it is a terrible amount. It's just awful.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do with 3 pence? Do you know what I mean? You can't even buy a sweet. You can't even buy a licorice, blackjack. Like you used to be able to in the 90s. The 90s, that's why the 90s were so good. You could buy penny sweets. But no.
Yeah, I remember those days, just going down to the shop, getting some midget gems, from the jar in the sweet shop.
From the jar, sweets from the jar, man.
Bit from there,
whiskey from the glass.
Going down the mall.
Jar any day, man.
Well, that's it. Those are the days that you would have
a
like
nice lady at the shop, weighing it out for you. If you didn't have much money, you asked for 2 ounces. Remember? I'm turning into Phil K now. Is it Phil K or Paul K? What's one of them Ks anyway?
Or even Peter K.
Peter K. That's who I'm on about. I'm turning into Peter K. Sweets from the jar. They were the days.
It is. That's it.
Please, I haven't got much money. I've been naughty. My mum won't give me my pocket money.
Yeah, I used to get 20 pence for cleaning my shoes and my dad's shoes on a Sunday. 20p a week.
20p. Wow. See that your parents, they knew how to put you to work, man. 20p what for cleaning your shoes and your dad's shoes?
If I can remember it rightly, I believe it was on a Sunday. I would just like clean my school shoes and my dad's shoes. They would be inspected. Once they were correct, I would receive 20p, and that was my toil for the week. And also, I had to go get the coal from the coal house, because we had a coal fire, so I had to go and get a bucket of coal. So as soon as I was old enough, obviously, if they needed a bucket of coal and I was in the house, then yes, I'm sent to the coal house to scoop up all the lovely coal and bring it back.
It's funny when you think about it, though. When you were a kid, you demanded payment for things that ultimately benefited you as well. Like you wanted to get paid to do the washing up and to peel the potatoes. But you're eating them, this is your washing up too. That you're going to the coal house. It's you're warm in your house. You're getting warm too. So it's I don't know. It's funny, really. Yeah, that's why I got a paper round. I couldn't handle the hypocrisy of asking my parents for money for doing things that benefited me. So I went to work, got a paper round.
Yeah, you couldn't get a paper. I could get a paper round potentially, but there was I lived on a moor with 2 other people around. So you lived in it wouldn't be a short round because it would involve a lot of riding to those houses.
Yeah,
but it would be not much point. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. You are right. It is a bit of a weird context, isn't it? But then I suppose, especially when kids are very young, it's other than a paper round, what else can they really do? I suppose. But yes, that is true.
I don't know. I had a friend who had an
actual job.
On a mink farm.
What was your first sort of apart from the paper round? What was your first kind of job when you were a bit older? Because when I was about 15, I started working at a fish and chip shop. So that was my first sort of.
That's a pretty cool job, man. Yeah.
It was voted the number one fish. I joined after the vote, but it was voted number one fish and chip shop in North Yorkshire, whatever year I joined.
Oh yeah.
And we had the best gravy as well. We won an award for the gravy. It was fucking good gravy, to be fair.
Oh yeah. Do you know the recipe?
Sadly not, but I mean, I'm sure he's still there. And he looked like a fish. So
he turned his back when he was making the gravy, so the secret didn't escape. His purview.
The manager genuinely looked like a fish, from the front. If you get a fish and you get a picture of a fish and you sort of turn it so it's just face first to you, not the side. So it's that sort of traditional face first fish look. That's how the manager of that fish and chip shop's face looked. And he lived in a
good job you got out there one did, man. Maybe there's something about working with fish, so
who knows, man?
You are what you eat, you know what I mean? So maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, and that he's just living off those fish. Those fish were so nice as well. I can see why he won the award. It was nice. But
we're Northerners though. We're all about our haddock, right?
Oh yeah.
It's got to be haddock, yeah.
We used to do a special as well, which was basically about, I would say roughly, it was basically a super large one. So it was kind of probably about 2.5 times the size of a normal haddock. It was just this massive fuck off fish. It was, that was good.
Did you ever get people doing home fry? Because that's what we used to do. Because my uncle worked in the fishing industry, so we'd bring our own fish and we'd get them to fry it, and they didn't charge you any money. So those days are over. That's one of those things of the 80s and 90s, the cooperative society, where you'd go into a fish shop and you could bring your fish and they would batter it and fry it and give it back to you. And you could buy some chips if you wanted, but you didn't have to. Or literally, there were times when
like
I just went in and bought a bag of and got a bag of scraps, but didn't pay for them.
Yeah,
those days,
yeah,
that wouldn't happen now.
Yeah, they'd come in and get the old guys. They'd be proper old guys, and they'd come in their suits and stuff, and they just ask for a bag of scraps.
Yeah, and like, what do you say? It's like, yeah, okay, bye.
Just gonna chuck them away anyway. Yeah, so
chuck them away.
They eat them like crisps and stuff. It's kind of, but I could see. Just see an appeal. They put some salt on there. I guess it's kind of like a crisp in it. So
what's wrong with a bag of scraps, man?
Yeah, absolutely not.
I mean, it's like one of the things nowadays. They say like there are so many kids and stuff in like and families in like what the food banks and kids in poverty and families in poverty and stuff. Like back in the day, there were solutions to that. There was local solutions, like the old bag of scraps or whatever. You know?
Yeah,
but no, you can't get anything for free nowadays. You know.
I just find it strange sometimes when I hear about these things. When I hear about kind of like people who are working but also going to food banks. I mean, there's got to be something more going on there because I don't know. Like, I guess maybe if you're like a single mum and you've got like multiple kids and stuff like this. But if you're working full time, like if you've got your other affairs, broadly speaking, I know not everyone's the same, but broadly speaking, if you've got your affairs in order, as long as you're working full time, you should be avoiding food banks because you should be picking the place where you live appropriate to your wage and not living somewhere where it's like too expensive versus your wage. And you know, if you're single, then I don't really see how you can mismanage that. Yeah, like I say, if you're a single mum or a single parent of some kind, I can see how it could be difficult. But I don't think they're saying that everyone's single parents. I think these are just sort of otherwise kind of quote unquote normal, I don't know, regular people, such who don't have kids or maybe are husband and wife and have kids and stuff like this. So,
well, you know, they need to use the food bank because they need to keep up their Virgin Media, Sky Sport, Sky TV subscription and all that. I'm being a bit facetious, but when you think about it, like
I was being nice about it.
I know. I'm trying. I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking. Like, what are the expenses? Well, everyone has a TV and everyone has a cable satellite subscription and that. And that's what is that about £40 a month? I mean, that's not.
But this is the thing. We all know how much everything costs. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
Man. I know.
We all know how much a subscription for this is, a subscription for that is. So we know people are mismanaging their money. Or they're kind of like,
yeah, you think so? Really, you think that's what it is? They're actually mismanaging.
Not
the money,
everyone. I'm not trying to look. Listen, anyone listening, that I'm not trying to say that like it's everybody who does it. But I would suspect that there's a fair.
Well, what they say is they say people aren't cooking properly. They say that people, you know, like people they take their kids to McDonald's and stuff, and like or ready meals, and that stuff's real expensive. It's like when I go to Waitrose if I'm hungry or something, or Marks and Spencer's get like ready meal. It's like nearly like £10, man. But if you was like. If you were to buy the raw ingredients and like, you know, plan ahead and stuff like that and cook for several days, it's like a lot cheaper and stuff. But I don't know. They say that people aren't doing that anymore. They're not like making nutritious meals and stuff like with, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? What do you think of that? I don't know if that's true or not. But
yeah, I mean, I think generally, I think the family dynamic has changed a bit as well. And I think also, I don't know, just the general dynamic, family dynamic of like come home, cook at home, blah, blah, blah. I think because people
don't have time, do they, as well? You know.
Yeah, people's jobs have changed as well. I mean, it's not so routine now. People have jobs all at different times and this kind of stuff, and it's not as routine as it was, like say, in like 50 years ago, where everyone was kind of 9 to 5 and it all kind of was routine. Now there's so many different jobs, so many different types of jobs that, and especially being in a city as well, you've got lots of different people just working at all different times and different routines. So. Yeah, it's bound to be. But then, I don't know, is that just an excuse, though, really?
How does it work, the old food bank? Do you have to register with it or something?
Not a clue.
If you're a bit short, can you just nick a tin of beans or something like that? You know, don't know how it works.
Yeah, how do you prove?
I mean, you got presumably it's like it relies on people's honesty because people could just like, if I just swipe a load of stuff from the food bank, I can buy a bottle of vodka and 20 Marlboros. Do you know what I mean? I'm not impugning those motives, but you know,
I think you have to get like a referral or something, don't you? I'm not sure who that referral comes from, though.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, I think from what you generally say and talk about, it seems like you're interested in like UFOs and stuff. And for you, it seems the jury's still out whether
of course,
UFOs. You kind of believe they're real, or you know, what is your opinion about UFOs and stuff?
I think for me, Occam's razor would suggest that they're most likely probes, like sort of reconnaissance, essentially. From elsewhere, whether that's going to be something that moves, sort of quote unquote interdimensionally, or sort of like with a sort of warp, like time bend warp type thing, or whatever, or if it's just literally, I don't know, somehow kind of through just sort of like a rocket or something. I don't know, but yeah, that seems to be the best. I mean, like, look, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But like, I mean, I would guess perhaps somewhere like, I think likely candidates are like the closest places, like Orion and stuff like that potentially. I thought maybe would be a big candidate. You know, we've got connections to Orion, haven't we? We've already seen like through the Egyptians. So that is a big contender, I would say, for sending them. I mean, why is the question really? And I can only really just come up with reconnaissance, just sort of keeping an eye on us. Like, it is quite funny that these all kind of started when we dropped the nukes, isn't it? When we dropped the first nuke, that's when all the sightings started. And the sightings are predominant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that map that shows the sightings. No, there's a map that shows where all the sightings are. I said there's a map that shows where all the UFO sightings are globally.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Most of them are in America. Most of them are over America. And then there's a weird little cluster around Belgium.
Well, but are they connected by any chance to Area 51? I mean, that would be a little bit of a, you know, maybe like a cause and effect situation there, right?
From what I remember, they were sort of just all over the country. Try and find this map. What were you going to say?
That map, yeah? Look that up. So,
yeah. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Did you see this article? Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it. Do you remember this?
I remember this.
2020?
I do remember this. Yeah, I was going to say it's from a little while ago, isn't it?
Yeah. So, a galactic federation has been waiting for humans to reach a stage where we'll understand what space and spaceships are. Because my latest book, Demons of Eleusis, did some research into UFOs and stuff. And so this article, Hamish Ed, is quoted in Aliens Exist, Humanity is Not Ready, and claims that the Galactic Federation has been in contact with Israel, right, and the US for years. So speaking in an interview, Eshad, he served as head of Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. And he's a 3-time recipient of the Israel Security Award. And he explained that Israel and the US have both been dealing with aliens for years. He insists that Trump is aware of them, and he was on the verge of disclosing their existence, apparently. However, the Galactic Federation reportedly stopped him from doing so, saying they wished to prevent mass hysteria, since they felt humanity needed to evolve and reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are. Sounds like a kind of kooky sort of science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him saying about. I remember Trump saying ages ago that he was going to reveal, and then he just suddenly went quiet. But then, subsequently, also you've had the CIA documents and stuff that have come out, and they've essentially said that the UFOs themselves are not of this planet. They actually literally said that. I'm paraphrasing it slightly, but they actually came out and said, didn't they, that these are not from their off planet, or some phrase like this that basically meant that they were non-human. So yeah, I mean, they've said it to that degree, but yeah, nobody's specifically said about aliens themselves, I guess.
So at the same time, have you heard of Operation Bluebeam?
I mean, I know there's obviously like stories of people. Yes.
Yeah. You heard of Operation Bluebeam, and do you remember what it was that Ronald Reagan said about the differences between Russia and America. That if America and Russia, if there was like an alien threat, then America and Russia, it would create a sort of like a new world order where both countries would cooperate against a joint enemy.
Yeah, they'd have to, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, makes
but
sense.
then the thing about Project Bluebeam is supposedly the idea is that the secret government, shall we say, are going to create a fake alien invasion.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I remember now.
And the idea behind that would be it'd be like a social change mechanism. They'd be able to radically transform society. Yeah, obviously with having a fake alien invasion, they could like lock people down. They can do anything. They could like do COVID all over again. They could just, instead of COVID, they could say the aliens are outside. You've got to lock yourselves in, and they could have like everything they wanted. They could have martial law. They could have full sort of control, surveillance of the population. So all their dreams, all their sort of Orwellian dreams would come true, right?
Well, this is cropped up recently, hasn't it, in conversation a few months probably back now, maybe 2 months ago, whatever it was, that those drones were appearing in America randomly every night.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting time, wasn't it?
And people were like, "Oh, is this sort of preparing us for the Project Bluebeam alien invasion type thing?" And then obviously nothing's happened since then, so I don't know what that was. I can't remember. What were they in the end? What did they say?
So weird, isn't it? The people have forgotten about that, hasn't it? It's like as if it's almost if it never happened. It's just been memory hold, hasn't it? It's like the news doesn't talk about something, so it leaves the mass consensual consciousness. It's like it no longer it could be ancient history, but it happened like last year,
There's so many things are like that, aren't there? So many things suddenly just disappear from the news cycle randomly, and they can be quite serious bloody things, and then they're just gone. Like you say, they're just out of the public consensus, the public psyche.
Did you find that map then about the landing sites of the?
Yeah, but I can't send it to you because I'm trying to send it to you, but I can't download it.
You can host it. Can you not host it on the?
No, I'm doing it on my phone because honestly, this computer it will crawl.
Oh, you on your phone today?
I'm not on my phone for this, but I'm trying to do it on my phone because my laptop is slow at the moment, and it's going to make things messy if I try.
Maybe you could send. I don't know how you.
If you search, if you go on Google, I'll tell you. I found it's easy to find on Google. If you Google global map.
Global what?
Global map.
Map. Okay. Yeah.
Of UFO sightings, and then it should come up. If you go to images.
I figured that out myself, really. Yeah. Global map UFO sightings, right? Images.
Go to images.
Oh, okay. It's all America. And a few in Europe. Yeah.
So can you see the one that's zoomed out that you can see like the entire?
It's on X. So there's one on X. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Until 2014. Oh, okay. There's a video. I'll play that. Yeah. Hang on. I'll just remove that. I'll just try and show that. Wait a minute.
Funny how they're so centered around Britain as well.
Yeah, it's all them NATO bases, isn't it? I mean, I've got my theories about UFOs. I'll go into them in a minute, see if I can just do this. Share. Is that it? Has it come up? No.
Not yet, but my laptop is slow. I think it's right.
All right, what's this?
Actually, the laptop.
So that's quite interesting. This is from 1906 to 2014
as well. Okay, that's interesting.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So 1906, right? We'll start
the nuclear bomb.
And there's 4 different time things here. There's War of the Worlds, which was broadcast in 1938. Do you remember that, George? Flipping.
Yeah.
1947 was the Roswell incident. Okay, so I'll just play that through.
45 was the Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah.
So 45. Okay.
So nothing until 1947. Right, all kicks off then, right? So you're saying it coincides with the dropping the nuclear bomb?
Which is 1945.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. Look at America.
But also look at England.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, though, bases.
Belgium as well.
UFOs could be anything. To
Jerusalem,
be fair.
Israel. I mean, so that's a close up of America. Okay. There's some sightings though prior to that. Weirdly, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Prior to 1947, there was
It's
something.
more like after 47, around 47 is when it sort of speeds up.
So these all coincide with urban areas, presumably, right?
Yeah, they must be on the coast and stuff. Yeah.
Or
There's
like
nothing in the
Air
centre.
Force bases. Okay.
That's kind of mad, isn't it? Russia not really getting visited that much, but
Yeah, there was nothing in Russia, right? That's kind of weird.
I've heard some stories about that place and some weird things going on around army bases and stuff, and people getting vaporized and frozen, and yeah, some crazy like alien weaponry type scenarios. What was the one where those people disappeared and they were hiking in Russia and they blamed, it was a UFO had abducted them. Fucking hell. Yeah, that's a bit vague, but there was some mad story about something similar to that. So I can try and find it.
Anyway, okay, so I don't know, but listen, my theory is I read this book, Jacques Vallée, Messengers of Deception, and he's a UFO researcher, and he spoke to a man called Major Murphy, and he's quoted Major Murphy. And this is what Major Murphy says. He's like a sort of secret operative, American secret operative. And he says in 1943, we had evidence that several countries were working on circular aircraft that they hoped to develop into secret weapons. He says the Germans were also doing advanced research on controlled electrical discharges and controlled lightning, and they tried to combine these together. When America invaded Germany, he says a lot of the hardware fell into their hands, but the Russians got most of the good stuff. Then people started seeing the modern UFOs in Sweden in 1946. General James Doolittle was sent to Sweden by the United States in 1946 under the cover of a shell corporation. In fact, he was sent to investigate what they called ghost rockets. So they didn't call them UFOs; they called them ghost rockets back then. Ghost rockets was the name given to some 2,000 reports of rocket-shaped UFOs appearing in the skies of Sweden between May and December 1946. That's after World War II. 2,000 reports. That's quite a lot of reports. These were radar tracked, and some of the objects fell to Earth, and fragments were discovered where they had impacted the ground. It seems likely that these sightings were the result of Soviet testing of rockets taken from the Nazi V2 construction base at Peenemünde. But there were other sightings of other objects which moved without leaving any exhaust trail, and some were said to move horizontally, and a hissing sound was sometimes heard accompanying the moving object. Major Murphy believes that the UFOs might be psychotronic devices. And the thing is, what the belief that Jacques Vallée comes to is that the UFO phenomenon is why it's so confusing and so hard to understand is because is it a technological phenomenon? Is it a psychological phenomenon? Because there's always that stuff about people being abducted. You heard about abduction stories.
Yeah, abduction is one of those things where I've been throughout my life, I've been well interested in UFOs, aliens. One of my first books was the X-Files book of the Unexplained back in the day. And I was well excited when I got that. It was like one of my favorite presents ever at the time. And anyway, so I've always been really into that kind of thing and thinking about that. But I've never really sort of decided what I actually think about abductions. I mean, in terms of the validity of them or what they might be.
The most famous stories of UFO sightings often accompanied with an abduction story, and during which someone is taken on board the craft and shown star systems and maybe, has some kind of invasive medical procedure or something, going on. So the thing is with this, research was done in 1946 concerning mind control. and the effects of electromagnetic radiation on the human body, and supposed that someone had obtained a device by the end of the war, like a UFO, but it couldn't fly very well, but it had the ability to emit electromagnetic radiation, which could cause hallucinations and paralysis as it flew over an area, so that witnesses exposed to it would think they saw the phantasms of their own imagination. Again, this is Major Murphy. So he pops because he's apparently, Jack Valley talked to this guy, and Jack Valley was one of the guys who was used as inspiration for Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
the film actually. So Major Murphy says, did someone test this kind of device in Sweden in 1946 and in the States in 1947 and find it to be ineffective as a flying machine but very useful as a means of propaganda? Has such a group understood what UFOs were? And is the entire phenomenon under this group's control? And has it been used as a psychological weapon against the public to condition them, to make them fearful, to prepare the next change in human society and social, mechanism? So he goes on. Actually, he says, "I can only tell you that silent disc-shaped flying machines can be built if they're equipped with the right devices. They can create astonishing effects and be reported as flying saucers. You had the V2 in 1944. You had the Atlas rocket in the 60s, the Foo Fighters in 1943, and the Green Fireballs of New Mexico 9 years later. The Nazi research on microwaves was child's play compared to the sophistication of modern experiments." So what Major Murphy believes is someone's mastered this sort of psychotronic weaponry, and it's working hand in hand with some kind of unusual flying objects, which is they're using this. This is the ability to sort of implant thoughts and suggestions and delusions in the human mind. And there's something really weird as well, because there are actually newspaper stories after the war which were actually reported that UFO, that disc technology was for sale. I'm just going to try and find that article because I've got it somewhere here.
The original shape that I seem to, as my understanding goes, I seem to remember that they originally used to describe them as cigarette shape. That was the more common description of UFOs earlier on, and then it kind of afterwards came this disc-shaped description, and a lot of the time it was army guys, people who were like pilots and everything, that were seeing these overseas and stuff, and they were often describing them as cigarette-shaped, sort of, or it's just like
I heard cigar-shaped. I remember cigar-shaped.
Maybe I think cigar-shaped the one probably that I'm getting that slightly wrong, but yeah, that was basically what they were saying. I mean, that kind of shape does make sense. I mean, but then again, I don't know what kind of technology we're dealing with. Maybe with their technology, a circle makes more sense. So who am I to say? But yeah, like this is another thing as well. Like I always think when we try and think about these things, we're coming at them, whether it's to do with like UFOs, aliens, or other aspects of the universe and nature of reality, any of this kind of stuff. We're coming at it from a position of all that we know, in the sense of only being a sort of advanced, quote unquote, ish, somewhat advanced-ish, sort of Homo sapiens for the last sort of few thousand years, I suppose, let's say. Point being, like, what the fuck do we actually know? We could just be analyzing all. I know we know some fundamentals, don't get me wrong, but like our knowledge is still very infantile. So sometimes I just like when we try and, or whenever I'm sort of thinking about these things, I'm like, is there even any point thinking too long about it? It's just like, it's fun to try and figure stuff out, but obviously, and it's fun to think about these things and chat about them for ages and stuff. But yeah, sometimes you think, yeah, but we're just coming at it from probably a very low intelligence perspective. We just don't, my point is, I suppose, we just don't understand anything still. It's kind of crazy.
So Henry Stevens, he wrote a book called Hitler's Flying Saucers, a guide to German flying discs of the Second World War. It's actually amazing. It's a really cool book.
I'll be back in 1 sec. Sorry, you keep going.
I'll go on then, yeah. So it's a thorough and systematic documentation of various Nazi secret aeronautical projects, the final stages of World War II. some parts of the book they deal with hypothetical elements of possible propulsion systems for these sources, and some of the theories are quite plausible, such as the Chapella free energy device, and others are a little less so. But the interesting thing is that it actually records the first documented sightings and reports of flying saucers. And the first report referring to flying saucers apparently appeared in 1947 in the November 9th edition of the Denver Post, some months after several documented UFO sightings across America. And the article is entitled "Spies Bid for Franco's Weapons," with a subtitle which reads, "Agents Describe Flying Saucers, the New Rocket." It reports a potentially fascinating story about an unnamed European spy organization successfully smuggling blueprints for advanced weapons out of Spain, which had been designed by 3 unnamed German scientists. One of the weapons is described as an electromagnetic rocket, which is claimed is responsible for the flying saucers seen over the North American continent last summer. Another article he refers to, Stevens, in his book, Hitler's Flying Saucers, is an edition of the Los Angeles newspaper The Mirror, dated March 24, 1950, quoting Italian engineer Professor Giuseppe Belluzzo, who makes a matter-of-fact report about the development of flying discs. Belluzzo, who was formerly Minister of National Economy and later Education Minister in Mussolini's government, and he was quoted after a spate of sightings in the continental United States. He said, "There is nothing supernatural or Martian about flying discs. They are simply rational application of recent technique." He also said, "Some great power is launching discs to study them."
So that's kind of saying two things, is it not, in a way?
It's sort of saying that they're products of the world of Germany and the scientific developments of World War II, and that they're for sale, that they're selling this technology to the highest bidder after World War II. So whatever the Americans and Russians didn't get it was literally that article in 1947. Because the narrative changed. The thing about UFOs becoming like an alien thing was like a change in the 50s. But before that, as these articles suggest, they were described as being a product of the war, like some kind of technology.
I guess so. That makes sense as well if you think about it. They're not just going to suddenly sort of go, aliens are here. Because it's unprecedented, isn't it? So,
well, I mean, you could argue that the whole aliens thing was created as a sort of smokescreen to cover up American Cold War technological developments and testing and stuff like that, right? I mean, that was my impression of it.
So is that what you think? So extrapolated out now back to present day, do you think that's kind of what they are, or generally, or do you think there's a mixture of both in terms of like maybe some is army type stuff, but other ones are?
I think there's a secret organization in this world, in this country, that knows exactly what they are and is using them as a psychological weapon against the public. I believe that there's this carnate intelligent consciousness watching us, but that is like demonic. It's like non-physical. But I believe a lot of this. I mean, look at them drones and things that publicly appeared last year. Some say they were Chinese drones. You know, I mean, and like people could hardly tell the difference between those and UFOs.
What was this? Sorry, which one is this?
The drone stuff. All the drones going on is it last year?
What difference?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like in America and the sightings, and they were the size of what? They were the size of like an SUV, weren't they, or something?
Yeah, that was the description. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant a different one for some reason. But yeah. There was SUV. Yeah, so not exactly dinky, no. But you saw them; they looked pretty. But to me, they looked like they were. I mean, what were people trying to suggest that these drones were sort of alien technology?
Because
to me, they looked human-made. I remember
I think really, yeah, okay. There was a lot of strange stuff though. There was like some sightings that were really weird, you know.
There was,
Well, like
but there was a few.
spherical sightings of spherical objects on runways, and do you see those ones?
Not sure if I saw spherical objects on runways. Might have to check that one out. Well, what was I going to say? But yeah, I saw a close-up of one that was hovering just above a tree at night, and to me, it looks like it was human-made as such, for want of a better description. But yeah, it just looked man-made to me. What he was actually doing, I'm not entirely sure, obviously.
So, I mean, anyway, there's actually historical record of man-made UFOs, flying saucers. For instance, this is all from my book, by the way, so I'm quoting from my book here, Demons of Eleusis. And it says here, in October 1955, in an article entitled Giant Pie Cooked Up by Frenchmen is Latest Flying Saucer. And this is Popular Science, right? So it's a prestigious magazine. The French aircraft engineer René Cousinet is shown standing aside the Cousinet RC-360, a flying saucer-shaped aircraft 27 feet in diameter, resting on 3 landing struts. The article describes him as making a bid for the flying saucer trade. I think he died shortly afterwards in mysterious circumstances, which is, not entirely unexpected. He actually talks about the method of propulsion, and he says the engines will spin the upper and lower discs in opposite directions and whirl the craft on its way. And yeah, perhaps that was a secret he was supposed to have kept, because tragically on 16th of December 1956, he and his wife apparently committed suicide in Paris barely a year later. So doesn't that seem a little bit suspicious to you, Future Shock?
Certainly. I mean, both of them as well.
Weird, huh? Yeah.
Well, we see this all the time. We see these, strangely timed, coincidental deaths a bit too regularly for them to be given the adjective coincidental, really, to be honest. So
it's going to bring us a picture of this thing as well, yeah.
Fairly normal procedure, standard procedure, isn't it? Did I tell you? I don't know if I ever told you the story about when I believe I had a UFO above my house when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat, but I'm always want to hear more details if you've got anything.
So basically, I would have been probably about early teenage or something. So yeah, we used to live on a flight path, so down to Eden Airport. So living on the moor, quite high up. We were just on this flight path, so you'd hear planes going over quite regularly. So you know what the sound of a plane sounds like. You know what the sound of helicopters sound like. You know what the sound of like smaller planes, larger planes. You know the difference between. A sort of vague. My dad was quite good with this. He was sort of teaching me about it, like the difference between the engine sounds and stuff. So anyway, you know all that. So one night I heard a kind of weird noise, sounded like perhaps a helicopter. I couldn't quite tell, and it came from sort of behind me. So if I'm like kind of lying in bed and where my head is, it came from behind my head, backwards sort of thing, coming towards me. And as it got over, or what seemed like over the house, it just stopped. So it was like increasing volume, louder and louder. Then it just stopped above the house. And at this point, it was quite loud. It was best I can sort of describe is kind of like a throbbing sound, if that makes sense.
What kind of sound was it?
A throbbing sound, a kind of pulsing kind of sound.
That's definitely sounds like a genuine sighting of something.
So, and it stayed there for a fair amount. When I say a fair amount, I mean a few seconds, but that is a fair amount given the context. It's like it stayed there, and I was in bed awake. And I was like, do I go to the window? Do I not go to the window? I'm there. Like, do I go to the window? Like, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the window. As soon as I get up to go to the window, zoom, silence. It's gone. Complete silence. And I've never heard that before, ever. If it's a helicopter, it will take a little bit of time. The volume will slowly go down as it goes away. Same for a plane. Never just disappear within a second or two. So God only knows what that was.
Well, I believe it's some kind of... What year was that?
I would have been between 13 and 16, so that would have been like 97 to sort of like 2000-ish, 2001. No, but yeah, but maybe late 90s, basically.
So I'd suggest that perhaps the local our local airbase testing some exotic technology. Can you see the picture? That's Kuzine's UFO on the right. You can see, I think that's Kuzine standing. So that genuinely is a man-made UFO, right? See what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Rene Kuzine RC360, and yeah, he sort of told the secret somewhat of the propulsion, and then he's dead a year later, and he's in a suicide with his wife. That's very peculiar, and it's that alone which really makes me suspicious that there is a secret group.
Oh, what was the one? What was the one that was recent? The Gene Hackman one was quite weird, wasn't it? Recently, I'm sure there was another.
Yeah.
One. I can't bloody remember. I'm sure there was another one. I'm just trying to think of the person. Oh my days! I need to make notes when I see these things because my memory, honestly. Do you know what it is? I think with memory as well. It's kind of like if you think about a lot of stuff and you're consuming a lot of information, reading about a lot of stuff, things get put to the back, and then sometimes info is a bit difficult to pull. So it's not necessarily like your memory is decaying as such. It's just like if you've got loads of things that you're thinking about, new thing, and then new thing, and then new thing, you get distracted and you kind of, forget. But if you were to show someone this picture, they wouldn't describe it as a man-made ship. If you said to them, "Oh, describe it," they would say, "Oh, that's like an alien spacecraft." They wouldn't say necessarily that it's man-made. So it's interesting.
So 1955 was a busy year for the flying saucer engineers. So again, according to Henry Stevens, 10 years after the war, in 1955, Heinrich Fleisner filed a patent application with the United States Patent Office for a flying saucer. His saucer used an engine devised by Fleisner. It rotated around the cabin on the outside of the saucer disc. It was set in motion by starter rockets. The difference is the engine was a form of a ramjet engine. It featured slots running around the periphery of the saucer into which air was scooped. The cabin itself was stationary or turned in the desired direction of flight using a system of electromagnets and servo motors coupled with a gyroscope. The patent was similar to Kuzine's design, except the method of propulsion, but the key elements of spinning wings and fixed cockpits. So these seem to be spinning wings of the whooshing sound, or maybe the pulsing sound that you heard.
So it's like for one person sat in the middle.
Huh?
It's for one person sat in the middle, is it? Basically.
So apparently, according to Fleisner, he reports that the saucer he was involved with would have been capable of speeds of up to 3,000 kilometers an hour within the Earth's atmosphere and up to 10,000 kilometers outside the Earth's atmosphere. So those kind of equate with the speeds that we generally associate with UFOs when they're sort of observed or something, or when people say they've seen them. They supposedly move at these extraordinary speeds.
It's just reminded me of, I don't know if you ever saw the video, it's years old. I think I saw this maybe 10 or 11 years ago. And it's from a CCTV kind of, I say CCTV, kind of like a camera that's on the side of, I think, the space shuttle, space station, and it captures what appears to be like this little blob leaving the Earth. And then something shoots it from the ground of the Earth, and the blob goes in a different direction. And it would kind of make sense to a degree if this was technology which was government backed or kind of promulgated, because that could be explained by a country trying to get another country's one of these or whatever it is that's up there, or they could even just be kind of shooting at something of their own. I don't know, but do you remember do you know the video that I'm talking about? Sorry, have you seen that? I don't know if you would have stumbled across that. Yeah, it's just a camera, and you see the side of the Earth. It's just a shot of the Earth, and then from the Earth's surface, towards the Earth's surface appears this kind of UFO, And then as it gets closer to Earth, you see what appears to be like missiles fired from the Earth. And then the UFO has to kind of do a hard right turn and zooms off to get out of the way of the missiles that were fired. So it's quite an interesting piece of footage. So it could be if countries have this kind of tech, that could be just someone trying to shoot another country. That might not be like necessarily an alien spacecraft being shot at.
So
I'll see if I can find the video.
Okay, you have a look for that. Yeah. So furthermore, there was an 80s American talk show called Open Mind with Bill Jenkins. It was a bit of a cultural institution in the 80s, and he used to have all sorts of people on talking about like aliens and UFOs and stuff. He even had DeForest Kelly, who's known as Bone. You know Bones from Star Trek. He was apparently a self-confessed long-time listener. One caller rang into the show, and apparently he was someone who was a soldier who was stationed at Camp Forsyth military base in Kansas. This took place in 1964, 10th of December. It says he saw a UFO when he was on duty guarding the motor pool. So he says while he was on guard, he was relieved by a soldier in a truck. But instead of going back to the barracks where the soldiers slept, they drove away from the camp. Coming to a stop, he saw two other enlisted men from a specialist force class and a number of officers. The first thing that struck him as strange was that the men were usually given only 3 rounds of ammunition, but now each was given a full clip from the back of the truck. He was told that a secret aircraft from Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska had become disabled and had come down somewhere near the camp. They hiked 3 or 4 hills, taking about 35 to 45 minutes. It was quite dark when all of a sudden he heard a thrashing sound. It was a Huey helicopter with a bright beam scanning the ground, which then scanned them, and all of a sudden it moved over the ground ahead and dramatically lit up a large round disc-shaped object. He says, it looks like a flying saucer. He describes it as a hamburger bun. He noticed something like a fan or a large round port opening like an exhaust port. He moved closer to the object. About a foot from the object, he noticed warm air coming from the saucer. Then they were told to leave as they were no longer needed. They were told never to reveal or repeat what they had seen because it was a secret object from Offutt Air Force Base. And as he wondered to himself, why, if that thing was paid in 1964 with taxpayer dollars, why hasn't it been revealed now? So this is a soldier who was stationed in Kansas. Was reported that an aircraft had crashed, come down from Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, which in fact was revealed to be a flying saucer. And his belief is that it was a US technology. So there's actually quite a bit more of interesting stuff about that. So another caller called Louis called in.
I've sent you the link, by the way, to that video, just to let you know. I've watched that.
I'll try and bring, if I can bring it up. I don't know. It's in WhatsApp. I don't know if I can have a go. Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Do you want me to send it to your email? Is it better to send it to your email?
It's all right. I'll do it in a minute. It's okay. So it's okay. I think I can get WhatsApp up.
It's an interesting one if you haven't seen it. It'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah. So this guy Louis called into the show as well, and he served in the National Guard in Kansas, and he recounts how they were taken to Camp Ripley in Minnesota during June 1964, and there was some type of nighttime war game simulation. They'd been trained how to use special night vision scopes, and they were told a special assault group was going to attack them, and they were not to move from their positions under any circumstances. However, after midnight, he got tired of sitting in the same foxhole and went to stretch his legs. He heard something, so he hid himself so he wouldn't get in any trouble for disobeying instructions. He saw a soldier with a different kind of uniform and a different kind of helmet. He had some kind of special night sighting device which looked more advanced than his, and also his weapon looked different, like a submachine gun, but smaller. He followed him for a while, and the man seemed to suspect that he was being followed, but every time he turned around, Louis managed to hide himself. Suddenly, Louis could no longer see the man, and following his footprints, he saw that they ended suddenly. He wondered where he had gone, and he saw a tree and cursed himself because it must be that he'd climbed a tree and got the best of him. Then the air was strangely warm, and there was a downdraft. And he noticed that strangely there were no stars in the sky. He looked and saw that above him was a large black circular object blocking out the night sky. He heard a metal door slide away and heard electronic sounds and something like the sound of hydraulic equipment. There was a kind of gentle, warm air current beneath the saucer. He thought this was connected to the form of propulsion. There was no motor noise, just a whine of electronic equipment. He was startled and fell backwards on the ground. There were red blackout lights inside the open square door, and he could hear voices talking inside about 40 feet above him. So he felt way over his head and that he'd violated orders. The next day, the officers were so furious that someone had left their position that they had the whole unit standing out in the sun for 3 hours. And they were screaming at them to find out who had disobeyed orders and left their post. He was so frightened he didn't mention it to his best buddies for 4 years. But this guy, he added on different occasions, he'd also seen vertical takeoff planes. And they took off on moonless nights from the Lockheed building. And they took off almost without noise with a kind of hydraulic whine similar to the sound of the UFO. And he suspects that they had something to do with the inventory of the US military rather than anything sort of extraterrestrial.
Yeah, that could explain. Like, I had a night, me and my friend had a night where we were at Ali Pali, just on the hill at Ali Pali, through the small hours. And we saw so much stuff going on up there. But a lot of it could have been what you're describing, various variants of that. Yeah, it's mad how when you get a clear night, if people haven't really done it before, it's kind of mad to find somewhere where you can have like a really clear view of a lot of stars and just sort of train your eyes on that section of space for a bit, and like you notice that there are things going on up there. There are things flying around up there.
So could you send that thing to my email, because I can't get to WhatsApp at the moment because it's updating. It's been a pain in the neck. Can you just send that to my email?
Yeah, one sec.
So anyway, the first sighting from Hitler's flying saucers, we find mention of this distinctive whine, which was mentioned by those two soldiers when they were guarding the base, and they were involved in the sort of war games and such, and all the crashed craft from the Air Force Base in Nebraska. So this sighting was in 1944. In 30 miles east of Berlin. So this is from Hitler's flying saucers again. The informant, whose name has been deleted, states that while he was a prisoner of war working for the Germans, a flying object arose nearby from behind an enclosure hidden from view by a 50-foot high tarpaulin type wall. It rose about 500 feet, then moved away horizontally. The only noise the object made was a high-pitched whine. The object was described as being 75 to 100 feet in diameter and 14 feet high. It was composed of a dark grey stationary top and bottom section, 5 to 6 feet high, with a rapidly moving center section, producing only a blare and extending the circumference of the vehicle. Notably, the engine of their farm tractor stalled during this event, and the SS guards told the driver not to attempt to restart until the whine could no longer be heard. So that sort of echoes the electromagnetic effects that the type of propulsion that these man-made craft ultimately can produce. But what is it that can cause failure of car engines at a distance? Ionized air, which accords with often the smell of burning ozone, which is associated with UFO sightings. So ozone being produced by an engine, by the UFO engine, will stop car engines from working because the car engine needs oxygen to start. Because the ionizing the atmosphere is ozone is ionized oxygen. So ionizing the atmosphere means the engine is actually no longer insulated from the spark. So then the fuel it will not ignite the fuel because electrical conductor, the voltage leaks out from the battery and cannot form a spark to ignite the fuel. So it creates a static charge in the atmosphere and it grounds itself. That's like the science behind it. As long as the atmosphere around it is ionized with free electrons, they will continue. The engine will only restart once the ionizing presence of the UFO engines is gone, and the atmosphere is no longer charged, and then the current will then it no longer charged to form a flowing current, and it will dissipate the voltage away from the spark plug. So,
did you think Oumuamua was just a natural thing or something else, perhaps?
Did you send that, by the way?
Yeah, I sent that by email.
Okay, I'll just have a look. Oumuamua, you'll have to tell me about that because I don't quite off the top of my head know what that is.
Oumuamua was that kind of little jaggedy rock that suddenly randomly appeared that nobody saw coming and sort of brushed past the Earth, and everyone was like, "Oh, what was that?" This is a few years ago now.
I actually don't remember anything about that at all. I missed that somehow, but I was out of the country, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah,
can you tell me more?
So yeah, it was detected. Hang on a second. Yeah, basically the idea with that Oumuamua was that no one detected it, and until it was actually passing through the solar system. So it was kind of a bit late to detect it, and it was about 5 miles long, kind of like a little, essentially like a dagger, like a.
It's not kind of an asteroid or something, though, right?
Yeah, my worry was that it was kind of like a shard, and then there might be some more shards. You know what I mean? From an explosion that's relatively nearby. That may still turn out to be true because the universe is big, things take time. So yeah, that was my sort of initial thought, and then people started trying to make it out that it was potentially an alien type thing. It was like, I don't know.
So what happened to that story then?
What happened to what? Sorry.
What happened with Oumuamua?
I don't know. It just passed through the solar system and hasn't come back yet. So I think that was it. It just passed through, and everyone was going, "Oh, what was that? How did we not notice that until it was actually in the solar system?" So these skies are meant to be monitored. Do you know what I mean? Like they should be catching things that are coming into the solar system, before they go into, way before they go into the solar system. They've got systems that are scouring, the heavens and monitoring pathways and things like this. So how they missed it, I don't know. Look at missed us. Yeah. So with this, you want to be concentrating on the top left-hand corner of the screen. Can you?
Yeah. So hang on, let's have see what I can just close that so I don't get confused. That one, what's this? Hang on. No, that's not that. That's the UFO things. Yep. Hang on. Here we are. So if I make that full screen and then what? Top where?
As big
top
as
left.
That's fine. Yeah.
Is it? Should I play? It's only 33 seconds, right? There's no sound, right?
Okay. Yeah, maybe just mute it. I got. Can you mute that? Yeah, that's fine. There's a bit of a hiss in the background. Yeah, so just play.
I didn't hear it.
So you see this thing moving? It's sort of moving towards the top left. It's moving along there. If you miss the start,
I see that. I see something.
If you missed the start, that kind of just appeared, and then it's just started moving here, and then in the second.
It's moved the other way now, right?
And then it's almost like a little warning shot in a way.
Oh, hang on. So
play from the start.
There's two moving things. So let's do that again. Can you tell us what's going on? Because I don't know what it is. Do you want to let us know?
Yeah, top left again. So
Well, so what are we seeing there? What are we looking at?
So basically,
there's this. The beginning, yeah.
So starting from the beginning, yeah. If you look, okay. So before you play it, if you kind of concentrate in the middle.
Well, I'll pause it. All right, let's go to the beginning. Right, it's pause. So what's going on?
So if you look in the center and then up, kind of where your arrow is now, basically, you just move it. But if you kind of move it more to the right, the arrow, kind of near where the line is, where that kind of line is of the Earth. Yeah.
What is that
so
line?
That's like that's the Earth.
Oh, okay.
This is the Earth that we're looking at. Sorry, I should have explained. So this is the Earth that we're looking at. There's other bits and bobs around, but this area where your cursor was just then is where you need to be concentrating, because what appears just randomly, a white blob will appear just below the line of the Earth here. And then
that's the maximum quality. It's always the way with these videos, isn't it? It's like the lowest possible quality, right?
So you'll see this blob appear, and then it will sort of
play it now.
Yeah, play it. Yeah. So the blob will appear shortly. Where is it? Come on. There you go. Just a bit of
that thing. So where's that come from? What is that?
Exactly. Where's that come from?
All right. So that's something that's just materialized. It's like a car that switched his lights on or something.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Beam on, isn't he?
Yeah, and then so if you were in a set, there's a little what may be a warning shot or something on the left.
Okay, the thing is though, the fact that it was not illuminated before could just mean that sunlight is reflecting sunlight. But I'm just saying as a sort of But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, so let's have a look. Okay, it looks like it emerges from the atmosphere, doesn't it? Look at that.
It kind of leaps out in a way, but it is a
grainy brighter. Shot. Look, it was darker before. It kind of comes out of the earth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. So what's that?
So that starts going there, and then in a few seconds, there's this big flash on the left.
Mind his own business. And then what happens next?
In a few seconds, there'll be a flash, and then it'll kiss off the other way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now then, so where's that flash come from?
Flashed, unfortunately, too off camera, unfortunately. So.
Oh, I see. It's off. Oh, it's off camera. Okay. And then he's changed course, and he's gone really fast.
He's fucking.
And he's out of Earth. He's out in the upper atmosphere. He's in space. Oh, look at that. So what was that as well? There was like something fired off here, right?
I didn't notice that. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh no, that's the missile. That's it. Yeah, that's the missile.
Can you see that?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, run that back again. Sorry.
That's pretty.
I forgot about there's a little extra.
It's like Star Wars. It's like the so-called Star Wars project, you know, the Russian and American thing, right?
Yeah. It
was big in the 80s. That's like a rocket.
Yeah.
Oh,
so there's a flash and then a rocket, and then what
he's took it off. So what do you make of that then? Because what do you think that is?
Listen, I have no idea. This is what I'm saying. I just think it's an interesting video. First, you get the flash, which is all the way over here on the Earth, and then you get a more localized missile, and then this guy's legging it all in the space of a few seconds. So in the space of like 10 seconds, not even 10 seconds, flash.
He is totally legging it.
And within 5 seconds, the missile's being launched.
That flash, is that not the missile launching or something? I don't know, man. I have no idea. But there's that flash, and then something comes out from the atmosphere. The fire's there.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
And one of the more interesting videos.
He's gone up into space, right? That's space. Is that not space?
Yeah, that's space. Yeah.
He's gone, isn't he? He's well gone. Yeah, you won't catch him. Pretty interesting. So what do you think that is then?
This is the thing. I don't know, but that thing certainly flies off into space somewhere. So
1991. That's real footage. That's not fake. That's like, you know, is it all been checked and not been debunked or anything, right?
The thing is, as far as I'm aware, no. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know if something's in the comments or whatever, but the thing is, we're kind of just seeing blobs now, to be fair. So
yeah, I know that, but you can clearly see a chain of events. You know, something's moving in one direction, then there's a reaction. It's like, that's very interesting. It's like it's literally like the Star Wars project. It's like Earth defense mechanism, like launching a missile to blow this thing up, and then it's buggered off. That is quite interesting. If that goes into space, that's seems to move at quite a shift as well. It seems to get a shift on, right?
Like, if you
think that's an alien, what do you think? What do you think in your gut? You know,
the reason I show it is because it's one of the most compelling bits of evidence I've seen, even though it is so grey.
Compelling, it is quite compelling, yeah.
it's just because of, and basically for reasons like the way you describe it, there's a chain of events. There's a kind
Chain
of
of
clear.
event. Yeah.
It's not just some random sighting of something flying past and that's it. There's a literal kind of like, cause and effect thing going on there. So
it's like a narrative. It's like, you know what I mean? There's like a story. You know,
why are they shooting at it? Like, why were they shooting at it then? If they were shooting at it, like,
I mean, I'm not a cynical guy at all. I'm very open-minded, but I have got a resistance against the UFO alien agenda because I think that would just be too easy for them to tell us that aliens are coming to get us, and we all have to sort of stay in our houses for the next 6 months.
True.
While they spend all of our taxpayers' money trying to defeat these aliens, and when it's all over, we all just have to sort of be microchipped or something like that, for our own good. Yeah. But and also, like the stuff I've been reading about these GIs, these US servicemen who have seen humans operate effectively Americans operating these craft, and they all come from US Air Force bases, and they all seem to believe it's taxpayers' money's paid for it. Do you know what I mean? And then we saw how the Germans and in Spain, and there was availability of UFO technology for sale after World War II, and it makes you wonder if it was just something that was cooked up. But I don't know. But that's quite an interesting video, and I mean, perhaps I think that I'm surprised that the government or whoever has that has something that can move that fast and go into space.
The funny thing is, in the aforementioned night that I was just talking about when me and my friends were at Ali Pali, I saw what looked like a star from my perspective. It was just like a star that was moving. It was just looked like a star that was moving very slowly across the sky, and then all of a sudden it stopped and then just zoomed off a completely different direction at like 45-degree angle.
I guess I've seen stuff like that too. I've seen things like that too, and whether it's aliens or whether it's technology, that's the question. Is it aliens or is it secret government tech?
It could just be tests. Yeah, I mean, they have to test it. They have to do those kind of maneuvers to test it. So,
but where is you? I think you side with the aliens, don't you? A little bit. You want the,
maybe I'm more kind of like Mulder about it, I suppose, aren't I?
More Mulder about it, which is and I'm more Scully about it. Is that? I guess that kind of fits, right? Yeah. Yeah,
it could be a bit of, but the thing is, it could easily be a bit of both. It could be, this could be stuff that we've recovered that we are testing, and there also are reconnaissance or whatever it is going on at the same time. So it could easily be both.
It makes you wonder, though, if they can do this, then why is all this Elon Musk X and the rocket stuff? Why are they going to all that effort to go through the charade of sending these huge rockets out and? Did you see the rocket catch?
Yeah, it's clever, isn't it?
Quite cool, wasn't it? It was really exciting.
Yeah, it's essentially just he puts little legs on it, doesn't it? And the turret just catches the legs as such.
Yeah, I mean,
if you see it when you see it land, it just has like these sort of like bits sticking out.
They can't land them, can they? They tried like gyroscopic rocket landing with like jets and rockets, but they just all blow up. So the latest thing is to do a catch and sort of lower it into these sort of arms on this platform. But why do all that if this technology exists? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Maybe it's non-transferable. I don't know. It's
maybe
weird.
It's the secret swamp elite have got this, and they're not sharing it. I don't know. It's weird though, isn't it?
But that would also make sense. I mean, if they do have that, if it's just a select, very elite group of people who have access to this, then why would they share it necessarily, I guess?
And they could do anything to us any time. I mean, they're probably the people doing the thing with the drones. It probably wasn't the Chinese at all. It was our own secret government cabal or whatever,
Yeah, that was weird how that kind of disappeared. It's weird how things just disappear from the news. We have the thing is these days we just have such access to news. We have, I mean, I know this has been going on a while, obviously, with social media now, but these days we have such quick access to news that news cycles are just sort of insanely fast. Like what used to be a news cycle for maybe sort of 3-4 weeks is now over in a day. And then there's a new thing, and then there's another thing, and then there's another thing, like just an endless conveyor belt of stuff. just across a week. You know, whereas before you were sort of seeing similar news for a week or two. You know, before even, you know, back in the teletext days and whatnot.
Yeah, I miss
Yeah,
those days.
teletext Bambaboozler on Channel 4. Did you ever do Bambaboozler?
No, I didn't. No,
It
what's
was like
that?
a quiz that was on, a teletext quiz, multiple choice quiz that was on Channel 4 teletext.
Now you're turning to Peter Kay.
Teletext, man, it's a happy, teletext is a happy memory. You know what I mean?
Oh
It's
man.
telecast,
Do you ever see that Vic Reeves thing about Peter Kay? Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer taking the piss out of Peter Kay. Did you see that?
No, maybe,
Oh,
or
it's
maybe.
so funny. I'm just gonna pull that on, man.
Yeah, I've maybe seen it.
You know what? That story you told us about last week about the pyramids, those columns underneath the pyramids.
Yeah,
that's taken the internet by storm. Everyone's talking about that now. You know.
yeah, it's good.
Everyone's talking about that. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Have you got any new insights or opinions about that?
I mean, I haven't really seen. I know there was some guy who had done like a real mock-up, a proper sort of scientific deep dive into it, and had done like a big kind of like map of how it all works and stuff. But that's the only kind of other additional thing that I've seen to do with it. To be honest with you.
Will I get a copyright strike if I post this? I probably will, won't I?
I think if you mute it, it's fine. Is it a video? Sorry, did you say you were?
Yeah.
If you mute it, you're usually fine.
Oh, I won't bother then. It's dead funny though. Shooting Stars MasterChef, it's so funny, but I'll probably get a copyright strike, so I'll leave it. But it's dead funny. Look, check it out. Yeah, it's dead for taking a piss out of Peter Kay, really. You know.
Yeah, a bit reason Mortimer quality. So I still, it's one of the things I can still find funny from the 90s, because some things, I don't know, I would say Partridge, Chris Morris stuff like Brass Eye, and that as well, you know, and Shooting Stars as well. Something like The Fast Show for me, like I've watched it again, you know, more recent, not so recently, but like as I've been a bit older. Don't know, it's just not quite the same. Red Dwarf stands the test of time. So, in fact, you know what? They've not done too badly, I think, a lot of comedies from the 90s in terms of aging. Because your Partridge is still brilliant. All the Brass Eye episodes are still brilliant, stuff like that.
I've got this German friend, and she was telling me the other day she's just discovered Keeping Up Appearances. She's so happy that she's found another British sitcom. So she's got like, how many seasons of that? Gosh, she's got that to work through. So like, there's always, if you're into British TV, there's always something new you can discover. And I mean, there's still funny stuff. I mean, it's cheesy, like Hyacinth Bouquet and all that, but it's actually quite, it's really well written. It's pretty funny, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many. Like, if you're going to get into it, yeah. I mean, like, where do you start? There's so many. If you're going from like the sort of what mid to late 80s to sort of late 90s, that era is like peak. That era. Look, it's just I don't know. It's just our bias. I don't know if it's just our bias, age bias, or whatever. But it does appear when you look at it objectively. I will try and say it objectively. That era, that kind of like mid 80s to late 90s, was a peak era for a lot of things. I mean, we talked before about music and stuff like that in that era. You know, movies. Think about the fucking movies that came out during that era. I think it's like a real peak kind of decade, like that kind of like 10, 15
Yeah,
year
I think
period.
the 90s were like the
Mid 80s to late 90s, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think things were better before we all had mobile phones. I think we were better off without them, you know? Like, I just always think of, you remember when you were like young and like the TV switched off at midnight and it was like everyone's gone to bed, like the whole country had gone to bed, like.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, and it was like, I don't know, there was a restfulness that settled over the country. There was, you know, like a restfulness, but now nothing's restful. Everyone's like, there's always activity, there's always something going on. Like, you've always got to check your phone, you've always got to check your emails, you've always got to check your likes, you've always got to check how many YouTube views I have or whatever. But like, they're never restful,
ADHD.
you know what I mean?
It's created crazy ADHD because, especially when you look at what kids are doing, like, I mean, I see people do it sometimes, maybe have to bite my tongue a little bit, but like when you see, you know, kids are just thrust, you know, an iPad or something in front of their eyes, and then they're now, obviously, they're growing up from a very young age, already addicted to that, already kind of getting an ADHD type thing from, constantly needing to be looking at the iPad and those kind of things. So people got to be a little bit careful with this stuff, because we're creating kids with. I think it's kind of a temporary thing, as technology will change in the next sort of 5 to 10 years fairly significantly, I think. But certainly at the moment, if you're raising a kid, it's like just be careful with how much screen time you're giving that kid, because it's one of the main things that's causing sort of ADHD type.
But it's hard though. How can you not, if you've got children and all their friends have got like iPads and things and mobile phones?
I'm even talking about very young.
That kid's going to hate you for not giving them an iPad or something. Do you know what I mean?
No, not what I'm saying is.
I'm not saying you should. I agree with you, but the pressure the parents are under to let their children do whatever all the other kids are doing,
I'm talking more about early ages. Sorry, from like sort of 0 to a few years up, they're already being given iPads at that age, like 2 years old, 3 years old. Just leave it a few years, and then like you say, once they start proper school and everything, if they might start to need to sort of maybe look into that a bit more, something like that, because the kids will, like you say. But I think preschool, they shouldn't be giving them, at least. But then again, what the fuck difference does it make if you're giving them at fucking 2 or 6 or 7? I guess. I mean, it's a moot point, I guess, isn't it? So you're not going to stop it. It's never going to be stopped.
I mean, the thing is, I love my laptop and my Half-Life Alyx and my VR and everything. But at the same time, I think we were better off without all that stuff. Do you just remember the days when you didn't have like the whole world and there's quite a funny John Cooper Clarke thing. I'll actually show you this because this is actually quite good. Because should we
finish on this then? Sorry, because
on this. Yeah,
I need to eat, man. I'm starving.
Well, I hope I don't get copyright struck by John Cooper Clarke. I don't think he'd do that to me, but he's on about why he never wants to have a computer, and he raises a really good point. It's really funny. Okay, it's only 46 seconds. Hopefully they won't do me for this. I'll just share this and then we'll end on this, okay? But this is how I feel, really, that we were better off without all this sort of technology in our lives, right? Even though we're doing this on technology, right? So just check this out. Can you let me know if you can hear this, right? Oh, I can't hear anything. I can't hear it, man. Oh, why is it not working? There's no sound.
Yeah, I think I know.
Oh, hang on, I got it.
I think I remember this. Yeah.
Go on. Here we go. Hang on. Let's have a go. I can't hear you, Johnny boy. Oh, come on, Johnny.
Yeah, he cracks me up, this guy.
Yeah, I know. He's all right. Hang on. So that should work now. So let's have a go.
Not only have I not got a mobile phone, I haven't got a computer. I don't employ any.
Oh, flip me over. Well, maybe it's for the
do
best.
this to get. I said, look, I know how fucking great they are.
Man.
That's why. That's the very reason.
Can't hear anything, right?
I can't have one.
Hear it.
I'll just watch a bit of Dion and the Belmonts, then I'll go out. Oh no, well, what was that Elvis film?
Right, I'll do it from the beginning. Okay, here we go.
Not only have I not got a mobile phone, I haven't got a computer. I don't employ any artificial intelligence of any kind. People say to me, "Oh, you should have a computer. They can do this." I said, "Look, I know how fucking great they are. That's why. That's the very reason I can't have one." I'll just watch a bit of Dion and the Belmonts, then I'll go out. Oh, no, well, what was that Elvis film? Oh, that reminds me, that Grace Kelly movie. I'll just download this Marx Brothers clip. You know what I mean? I'd never get out of the fucking house. I'd fucking die. You'd find me dead with a pizza box with my arse in the air and my pants round my ankles in front of a flickering fucking computer screen. I never went out. So we bought him that computer and never went out again. It went through the fucking door. The milk stopped being delivered and he fucking died.
So, yeah, you have to tell me how funny that was because I didn't hear anything. But he's on about he'd look at old Elvis Presley movies and he'd never leave the fucking house because he wouldn't leave because he'd always find something that he wanted to look at. And it's true. It's how people are, right? Because everything's available at your fingertips and, like, you don't even need to get out of the house really to do anything,
That's why I think it's going to end up being like you'll just sort of, there'll be no particular reason. There'll be not necessarily be any reason to leave the house. You still leave the house, obviously, but everything will just be at some point. Everything will just be catered for you at your house. Like
you won't be able to leave the house because the aliens will be outside.
Forgot about that.
Part of the alien agenda. Do you know what I mean? That's been the lockdown,
guys.
So as long as you got your internet, you can just the aliens will just take over the Earth, and as long as you keep your door closed, and you get the pizza delivery boys, they let them go because and the sort of the Uber drivers or the sort of Deliveroo, they're okay, but they've got like a special pass. So
not that we got time to dive into it now, but I don't know if you saw the stories about there was this sort of like bunch of UFO sightings in, I think it was somewhere in the South in America. And it was just basically every time they would this program was sort of like investigating it, doing interviews about it and stuff. And every time they interviewed one of the people, they were just such stereotypical like slack-jawed yokel types, like just most of them appear pissed on the program. And they're just trying to convince this guy who's trying to do a serious report. He's trying his best to do a serious report about these alien sightings, and these like drunk yokels are trying to describe these sort of like 8 foot tall figures who are coming to sort of get them from their backyards and stuff. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'll find it for next time.
It sounds good. Yeah, Bill Hicks does a bit on that. So yeah, Bill Hicks does a bit. Yeah, he's like, why do aliens always meet these backward Hicks? It's like they're doing a sort of galactic teeth straightening and eugenics service or something. They're going around the universe straightening people's teeth and sterilizing them. I don't know. The Bill Hicks does a bit though. It's a bit mean, but
they got to do better because it's not working. It's not working out.
Shall I play that Bill? I wouldn't play the Bill Hicks bit because I didn't even hear that bit. So I don't know. So listen. On that note, then we'll say happy Sunday and have a good week and we'll maybe do this next week.
Yeah, man, definitely. Same time next week. Anyone listening, if we get people listening.
There's a few listening. There's a few listening. BitChute seems to be doing okay.
Hit the like button. It is useful for us because it helps boost the algorithm, which sort of gets this sort of push to more people, and then hopefully kind of builds up on that sort of thing. So things like likes and also like the amount of time people watch it can really sort of like exponentially help us if we can build it up. So likes are good.
Good. Well said. Yeah, you're doing. Yeah, thanks very much for that. These are things I do not factor in and don't think about at all, but I should. Yeah. So all right, have a great week.
Do about it as such. We just got to try and make this show.
Remind people, innit? Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got to see the little thing in the corner there. So yeah, we're on top of things. So, but yeah, man, have a good week. Yeah, man. We will be in touch, and yeah, I'm sure we'll
go back to my Half-Life VR and see if I can finish Half-Life Alex.
Yeah, so, be careful, man. Be careful. Just do it in a move
I'll
things
I'll try not to break anything. Yeah. Right, I'll play the music and we'll say goodbye. Okay.
All right. Take care, man.
Hasta luego.